After the election, there's been lots of analysis of what went on and why. And one of the most interesting columns that I've seen is by Brian O'Connor, the finance editor for the Detroit News. He is on the other end of our AT&T line right this very second. Thank you for being patient, and welcome to the program.
I'm glad to be here.
Your writing is really fun to read, and you talk about Terry Lynn Land, who ran for U.S. Senate, having an extremely terrible, horrible, no good, unbelievably very bad day, running for office. And in fact, that's kind of cute, but the fact of the matter is there was one columnist who called her campaign a national embarrassment. I mean, most of us don't fail at that spectacular a level, but we do fail.
Yeah, we do. And, I mean, obviously when you're running for U.S. Senate, you're on a national stage, but, if you really crater in with a flop of a project in your entire company, you can probably feel like you're in the spotlight for quite a while to come, or even in your personal life. You'll get together for Thanksgiving or your family get-togethers, and you'll definitely feel on the spot.
There's another name comes to mind, too, right now that I'm wondering what happens next for, and that is David Brandon, the former athletic director at the University of Michigan. I mean, he was running Domino's Pizza as the CEO, then went over to the University of Michigan and took a pay cut to do it, as I understand it, and that didn't go so well. And now that I look back at it, once he left, it's at that point that Domino's Pizza had their big turnaround. So you begin to wonder what happens next to a guy like that. I mean, if someone gave me $3 million as a buyout, I wouldn't bother to work again, really, but he's probably not wired that way, is he?
He's probably not wired that way, and that's probably why somebody like Brandon or like Terry Lynn Land or other people will go on to do something else and have some other success. You don't have to be. When you make as I say in the column, there's basically two kinds of people. There are people who are going to do this kind of spectacular, potentially career-ending belly flop, and there are people who've done it. And you've either been there or you're headed there. And the first thing to remember is that these people got that opportunity because they did something else. Well. For instance, Terry Lynn Land was a very popular Secretary of State. It might not have been the greatest pizza, but Dave Brandon oversaw a huge expansion of Domino's. So, it's not like these people have been, complete failures at everything, and neither have most people who wind up with something. You tried something different, and maybe, and you have to think about, was it that I did something that I'm really not cut out for, like me trying to play basketball, or did I do something that I really can do well? I just did it badly, and then you need to sort of take that lesson and go on from there. And if it's something that you feel that you're passionate about and you feel this is really my life's work, then you need to go back and look at, well, where did I make my missteps? Did I have the wrong, in the instance of Terry Lynn Land, did I have the wrong campaign team? Did I have the wrong preparation? Did I just make a lot of wrong assumptions? Or maybe, my public service is designed to be more at a local level instead of a national or international issues. If it's and if you come back and you get better at it, people are going to forget about, it's going to be to your credit. People are going to say, well, he really cratered in with that first attempt, but his next thing was great. And so now you're a comeback story. And if you decide, I am just terrible at that thing that I was terrible at, well, who can blame you for quitting it? Go do something that you're good at, and then, again, you've made a good positive choice and created value and said, I tried that thing and it was horrible and I was horrible at it, and now I do this thing and everything is coming up daisies.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times this weekend had an article about startups, and that most people now have a failed startup, and they wear that as a badge of honor if it happened to them, because it proves, you got a little toughness and you're able to bounce back. The difference for Terry Lynn Land and David Brandon is David Brandon was given $3 million to leave, and Terry Lynn Land spent $3 million on that campaign.
Well, but that's another thing in her credit is she committed. I mean, running for U.S. Senate is a pretty big deal. She went big. She flopped big, but she went big. She's not driving to work thinking, man, I should have run for U.S. Senate. Yeah. I could have done that. Well, now she knows. She did it. She tried. How many people who are taking pot shots at her or pot shots at Brandon or pot shots at anybody else who's flopped, at the guy who invented New Coke, or the poor, slob who designed the Yugo, or the Pontiac Aztec, or whatever. And it's okay. You know what? These guys did it. Did they fail? Yeah, but they did their thing. I want to be a car designer. Whoa, I designed a really lousy car. What was I thinking? Go back and recover from that. I would rather be that guy than the guy who's, sitting there working at some supplier, drafting the 300th revision of the lug nuts, for some tractor, going, man, I bet I could design the heck out of a car. I got a great idea for an SUV. Well, that guy tried it. It stunk. It stunk on ice. And, and now he knows, and he can go on. At least give these people the credit for going for the brass ring, even if they completely fell off the merry-go-round, and got kicked out of the carnival.
By the way, just anecdotally, 2 of our producers here have driven Aztecs, just by coincidence. There's one sitting out in the street right now, in fact, so it's sort of funny. And then did you see that movie Up in the Air with George Clooney? They shot some of it in Detroit, and they'd go around firing people. That was his job. And he had a standard speech where they'd say, anyone who's ever created an empire has sat where you're sitting right now. And that's kind of what you're saying.
Well, that's true. I mean, look, not all of us are, not all of us are cut out to create an empire. But, we are cut out to be happy. And we can define ourselves more by the next thing. But of course, being happy isn't your first step. If you flubbed because you did something badly, then you have to stop and admit that. If you screwed it up because you're completely not cut out for it, then you also need to be honest for yourself. Not everybody, if every dream came true, we would all be firemen and nurses and cowboys and astronauts, right?
Well,
because that's what everybody in my first grade class at St. Mary's wanted to be. Yeah. So, that doesn't happen for everybody. But one of the first steps is you need to feel sad about being bad, and admit that, wow, that just really stunk the place up. And then you need to figure out why, and then you need to figure out, what you want to do next. So
this segment brought to you by Brandon Land Consulting with David Brandon and Terry Lynn Land.